really difficult to know when it started, but you were always sensitive and shy when you were at school.
Yeah.
And so you got to secondary school, and as about 11, that might have been the trigger.
I think that was definitely the trigger. It's sort of the change in environment of kind of being expected to act in a certain way that was deemed normal.
And the thing was, I mean, this has had such an effect. It wasn't just at school, because then you'd come home and you talk about this cycle of worry that you got yourself into. And I can't bear, I mean, you poor child, sort of worrying about it all night, sitting there thinking about what you've done that day, what you're going to do tomorrow, not sleeping properly, getting up in the morning, and the process starts again.
Yeah, and to me that seemed normal. I just was so worried that somebody might draw attention to me in class, or that I might make a fool of myself in some way.
The horror of being asked to speak out loud.
Yes, read your work in front of the class, which, you know, a lot of teachers think, you know, will do that, but for me, it was my worst nightmare, so I would go home, go to sleep.
And then at uni, it got worse and worse. You actually found a new tool in the arsenal. Alcohol helped to
Oh, yeah, booze, definitely.
Yeah,
that was...
sort of rub out the edges, the sharp edges of it, but you knew that was no way to go.
No, deep down I knew this is definitely only a temporary fix. I'm going to have to deal with it eventually.
Well, you moved to London and you got your dream job working in publishing. On the outside, as I said, this was a dream, but internally, living a nightmare, really, for you. How did you cope in the workplace?
Well, my approach to my anxiety, which is the worst thing, I would never recommend this, was just to ignore it. I thought, I cannot tell anybody about this because I will be outcast. Everybody will think I'm a freak, because I thought I was a freak. So I just ignored it. I just ploughed on ahead like, no, you'll be fine, you'll be fine, you'll be fine.
And of course that catches up with you, and
does.
it did. And you were asked to interview for a promotion at work, and this was the moment where you just snapped.
Yeah, I had what I now know was a panic attack, but I'd never had one before, so I thought I was dying. I genuinely, you know, the heart was going, I couldn't breathe, I felt like my limbs were going numb. So I laugh about it now because I have to, but I actually stood up and bolted out of the room and ran out, literally ran all the way down the street, and that was the kind of, you kind of have to do something about this now.
Well, you obviously you've got Dan, who you say is, you know, your rock. He's the guy you wouldn't be able to get through this without his support. But meeting him first of all, when you sit down and talk to him, your hands were shaking.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if you can see that. It's something I always have. It's better today, but yeah, it used to be much worse.
Yeah.
But
did you tell him straight away as soon as because you met him through a dating site, I think, didn't you?
Yes,
so
that's
flatmate
right.
said you've got to get out there, and that's one of those things that, you know, it's a tricky hurdle to get over. By the way, you know, I really like you, and I suffer from severe anxiety. It's going out is going to be tough.
Yeah. I kind of didn't call it social anxiety at first. I just called it, I just have this thing. I just have this little weird thing that flares up now and again, but...
Because at this point, you're still trying to keep it all under wraps and keep it to yourself. So after your first panic attack, you went home to Bolton and you went to see your GP. And very quickly and very simply, you got a diagnosis, which was a huge relief to you.
Yeah, as soon as I saw it, I burst into tears of relief because it had a name. If that makes sense. I was like, I thought this was just this freakish thing that only I had, and she was like, no, this is a very common condition. How long have you had it for? I was just like, 10, 20 years.
All my life, pretty much.
Yeah.
What was the treatment?
It was medication. I don't produce enough serotonin in my brain, so I take medication to help with that. And I had CBT therapy, which...
Cognitive behavioural therapy.
Yes. So it's, I didn't realise that I had to accept... I didn't have to accept those thoughts in my head. They weren't the truth. It was just lying to me.
Yeah.
So to talk to a therapist who taught me how to challenge them.
But also exposure therapy as well.
Yeah, exposure therapy is slightly more aggressive, but it's really, really helped me. It's kind of exposing yourself to situations that make you uncomfortable, to provoke an attack, feel it and think, you might feel nervous, you might feel horrendous, but nothing bad will happen. It can't hurt you. It's just a trick.
Well, I imagine sitting here on this sofa right now is quite a big one for you. I mean, there must have been a point in your life where you would never have even considered doing something like this. So how is this feeling right now?
I can't really describe how it's feeling. It's like, I'm speechless. When I was at my worst, and I didn't think I'd ever be able to leave the house again.
Yeah.
So to be here now is incredible.
And then on the 28th of May, You got married.
Yes.
You married Dan, and then there is no day like a wedding day to make one person the centre of attention.
Yes. yeah, that was... it was so important to me that I didn't want to enjoy my wedding day, I wanted to enjoy it.
Yeah.
So I thought, the walking down the aisle, that's going to be the problem. So I practiced, I did a bit of exposure therapy with my dad. We walked down the aisle together and practiced it.
Yeah.
And on the morning, we did, with my best friends, my bridesmaids, we were doing, like, playing games, distraction techniques.
And the reason you're talking today, and your book, which we mentioned at the beginning, this is all to help. There are 8.2 million people in the UK suffering from anxiety. And so if you can help just a few of those, that's why you're talking.
I just don't want anybody else to have to go through what I did for so long, because when I was recovering, so much of the stuff out there had a lot of medical jargon. That's like, I don't understand that. What does that mean? Like things like serotonin or cortisol. And so I thought, I'm going to start writing it that a normal person can understand.
Yeah.
So,
Oh, well done you. Makes perfect sense. If you enjoyed that, there's more of the same right here. And make sure you subscribe so that you never miss the best moments from this morning.